Who was the first President of India? Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Who was the first Vice President of India? Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. Who was the first Lok Sabha Speaker of India? G.V. Mavlankar. Who was the first Chairman of Rajya Sabha? Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. Who was the first Prime Minister of India? Jawaharlal Nehru. Who was the first Chief Election Commissioner of India? Sukumar Sen. Who was the first Home Minister of India? Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Who was the first Law and Justice Minister of India? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Who was the first Education Minister of Independent India? Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Who was the first Chief Justice of India? Justice H.J. Kania. Who was the first Viceroy of India? Lord Canning. Who was the first Muslim President of India? Dr. Zakir Hussain. Who was the first Indian Governor General of Independent India? C. Rajagopalachari. Who was the first President of Indian National Congress? W. C. Banerjee. Who was the first Chairperson of Lokpal of India? Justice Pinaki Chandra Ghose. Who was the first Indian to win an individual Olympic gold medal? Abhinav Bindra. Who was the first Commander-in-Chief of India? Field Marshal K.M. Kariyappa. Who was the first Indian to cross English Channel? Mihir Sen. Who was the first Indian man in space? Rakesh Sharma. Who was the first Indian to win Magsaysay Award? Vinoba Bhave. Who was the first Indian to get Nobel Prize in Physics? C.V. Raman. Who was the first Indian to get Jnanpith Award? G. Shankarakurup. Who was the first Indian recipient of Paramveer Chakra? Major Somnath Sharma. Who was the first Indian to win Nobel Prize? Rabindranath Tagore. Who was the first Indian to receive Nobel Prize in Economics? Amartya Sen. Who was the first Indian to receive Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award? Vishwanathan Anand. Who was the first Indian to win an Oscar Award? Banu Attaya. Who was the first Indian woman to win Booker Prize? Arundhati Roy. Who was the first Indian woman to get Bharat Ratna? Indira Gandhi. Who was the first woman President of India? Pratibha Patil. Who was the first woman Prime Minister of India? Indira Gandhi. Who was the first woman Governor of Indian State? Sarojini Naidu. Who was the first male IAS officer of India? Satyendranath Tagore. Who was the first female IAS officer of India? Anna Raja Malhotra. Who was the first woman Chief Election Commissioner of India? V.S. Rama Devi. Who was the first woman IPS officer of India? Kiran Bedi. Who was the first woman Chief Minister of Indian State? Sujata Kripalani. Who was the first Indian woman to win WTA title? Sania Mirza. Who was the first Indian woman to climb the Mount Everest? Bachendri Pal. Who was the first Indian woman to climb Mount Everest twice? Santosh Yadav. Who was the first Indian woman to win Olympic medal? Karnam Malleshwari. Who was the first Indian woman to get Jnanpith Award? Asha Purna Devi. Who was the first woman Union Minister of India? Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. Who was the first Indian woman to win Miss Universe? Susmita Sen. Who was the first Indian woman to become Miss World? Rita Faria. Who was the first Indian to win Dada Saheb Phalke? Devika Rani. Who was the first Indian woman to swim across English Channel? Arathi Saha. Who was the first woman of Indian origin to go to space? Kalpana Chawla. Who was the first Indian woman president of the UN General Assembly? Vijayalakshmi Pandit. Who was the first Indian woman to be president of the Indian National Congress? Sarojini Naidu.